Picture this. You're 29, living your best adult life in Phoenix, designing dental office brochures by day and believing your boyfriend's innocent Wednesday night salsa lessons story. Then you discover he's been practicing more than the cha-cha with his ex-girlfriend. Welcome to my personal nightmare, served with a side of Arizona heat and a generous helping of betrayal that would make a soap opera writer jealous. I'm Emery Blackwood, and 3 weeks ago on a Tuesday that started like any other, my perfectly organized life exploded faster than a soda can left in a Phoenix parking lot during July. Sterling had been my solid, reliable boyfriend for 2 years. The kind of guy who remembered to put the toilet seat down and actually listened when I complained about difficult clients. He was 31, worked in insurance, drove a sensible Honda Accord, and had convinced me that settling down didn't have to mean settling for less. Boy, was I wrong about that last part. The discovery happened in the most mundane way possible, which somehow made it worse. I was using Sterling's laptop Tuesday night because mine was updating, trying to finish a logo design for Sunshine Dental Clinic. Yes, another dental office, because apparently that's what my graphic design career had become. His phone kept buzzing with text notifications, and after the 15th ping, I glanced over to see if it was his mother again with another Facebook meme about cats wearing tiny hats. Instead, I saw a preview message from Tegan dance partner that made my blood freeze. Can't wait for tomorrow night. You make me feel alive again when we move together like that. Now, Sterling had mentioned Tegan exactly once in 2 years. A brief, dismissive comment about an ex-girlfriend who couldn't handle his ambitious nature. What he failed to mention was that she apparently handled his body just fine during their Wednesday evening dance classes at Desert Rhythm Studio. I sat there staring at his phone screen, my half-finished dental logo mocking me with its cheerful tooth cartoon, while my brain tried to process what I was seeing. The messages kept coming, heart emojis, references to their incredible chemistry, and plans for after-class activities that definitely weren't listed in the Desert Rhythm Studio brochure. Sterling was in the shower, probably washing off whatever cologne Tegan wore, while I discovered 3 months of lies sitting right there in his text messages. 3 months of Wednesday nights when I'd been working late, surviving on takeout Chinese food and caffeine, designing marketing materials for root canal specialists, while my boyfriend practiced horizontal mambo lessons with his ex. The rational part of my brain suggested having a mature conversation. The other 95% wanted to key his Honda and post his browser history on social media. Instead, I did something that surprised even me. I screenshot every single message, transferred them to my phone, and started planning the most beautiful revenge Phoenix had ever witnessed. That's when I remembered Corbin Martinez. Corbin was my ex from 3 years ago, the one who played guitar in a country band called Desert Storms, and could make me forget my own name with just a smile. We'd dated for a 1.5 years before I decided his unpredictable musician lifestyle wasn't compatible with my need for stability and health insurance. He was 30 now, still devastatingly handsome, still played at honky-tonk bars around Scottsdale, and still possessed the supernatural ability to make every other man in the room look like furniture. More importantly, Sterling absolutely despised him. Not just regular dislike. We're talking full-blown, irrational jealousy that surfaced every time Corbin's name appeared in conversation. Sterling once spent an entire dinner analyzing why Corbin's Instagram post about his band's new gig was clearly attention-seeking behavior designed to manipulate you. I'd found it endearing at the time, thinking it showed how much Sterling cared. Now I realized it was the perfect weapon. Wednesday morning, I called Desert Rhythm Studio. The receptionist, a cheerful woman named Maria, explained their intermediate Latin dance classes met Wednesday evenings from 7 to 9, with a showcase performance scheduled for the 3rd Saturday in October. Perfect timing, exactly 4 weeks away. I'd like to register for the Wednesday intermediate class, I told her, my voice steady despite my racing heart. My partner and I are very interested in the upcoming showcase. Wonderful. What's your partner's name? I took a deep breath. Corbin Martinez. He's a musician, very comfortable with rhythm and movement. That afternoon, I texted Corbin, "Remember how you always said you wanted to learn to dance properly? I have a proposition that involves music, movement, and the chance to drive Sterling absolutely insane. Interested?" His response came back in 30 seconds. You had me at driving Sterling insane. When do we start? I explained the situation. Well, most of it. I told him about Sterling's dance classes and my suspicions about Tegan, but I left out the part about the text messages. I wanted Corbin focused on the dancing, not plotting Sterling's destruction. That was my job. Friday evening, Corbin and I met at Starbucks near Desert Rhythm Studio to discuss strategy. He looked exactly like I remembered. Tall, lean, with those dark eyes that had gotten me into trouble more times than I could count. He wore jeans that fit perfectly and a button-down shirt that probably cost more than my monthly coffee budget. So let me understand this correctly, he said, stirring his black coffee while studying my face. Sterling is taking dance lessons with his ex-girlfriend, probably cheating on you, and you want us to show up at their class looking amazing and dancing better than they ever could. That's the general idea, yes. And the part where this benefits me is? I smiled. You get to be the hero in my revenge story. You'll learn Latin dancing from a professional instructor, and you'll have front-row seats to the most epic relationship implosion Phoenix has seen since the Cardinals traded away their best quarterback. He laughed, that same rich sound that used to make my knees weak. Emery Blackwood, you are absolutely diabolical. I'm in. Sterling came home that Friday night, whistling, some salsa tune while I pretended to work on a brochure for another dental practice. He kissed the top of my head and announced he'd be at dance class Wednesday as usual. How's it going with the lessons? I asked innocently. Great, really great. Tegan and I are making amazing progress. You should see how well we move together now. I'll bet, I thought. But out loud I just smiled and said, That's wonderful, honey. I'm so glad you found something you're passionate about. Wednesday couldn't come fast enough. Wednesday evening arrived with the kind of dramatic Arizona sunset that makes tourists think they've discovered paradise, completely unaware they're about to melt into the pavement. I spent 2 hours getting ready, not the usual 5-minute makeup routine I reserved for Sterling, but the full battlefield preparation I used to employ for dates with Corbin. Black leggings that made my legs look like they went on for miles, a deep red top that complemented my dark hair, and dance shoes I'd ordered online with overnight shipping because apparently revenge requires proper footwear. Corbin picked me up at 6:30 in his truck, a black Ford Ranger that still smelled faintly of guitar cases and the cologne that used to drive me absolutely crazy. He whistled when I opened the door, and for a moment I remembered exactly why I'd spent 1.5 years thinking this man might be worth risking my carefully planned future. You look like trouble, he said, grinning as I climbed into the passenger seat. I am trouble, I replied. That's the whole point. Desert Rhythm Studio occupied a converted warehouse in central Phoenix, all exposed brick and hardwood floors with mirrors covering every wall. The intermediate Latin class was already warming up when we arrived at 6:55. I'd timed our entrance perfectly for maximum dramatic impact. Through the glass doors, I could see Sterling and Tegan practicing basic steps, her hand on his shoulder, his arm around her waist, both of them looking comfortable in a way that made my chest tighten with fresh anger. Tegan was exactly what I'd expected. Blonde, petite, wearing a flowing skirt that moved like liquid when she turned. She was pretty in that effortless way some women manage, like she rolled out of bed looking camera-ready. Sterling wore black pants and a white button-down shirt, his hair styled with more product than usual. They looked like they belonged together, which made what I was about to do feel absolutely justified. Ready? Corbin asked, offering me his arm. Born ready. We walked through those glass doors like we owned the place. I counted exactly 3 seconds before Sterling noticed us. I could see the exact moment his brain processed what he was seeing. His face went through a fascinating series of expressions: confusion, recognition, shock, and finally something that looked like pure panic. Emery? His voice cracked slightly on my name. What are you doing here? Learning to dance, I said sweetly, enjoying the way his eyes darted between Corbin and me. You made it sound so wonderful. I thought we should try it too. This is Corbin, my dance partner. Sterling's jaw tightened when Corbin extended his hand. Sterling, right? I've heard so much about you. The handshake lasted approximately 2 seconds longer than necessary, a classic masculine power play that I found both irritating and useful for my purposes. Tegan appeared at Sterling's elbow, looking curious and slightly territorial. "Sterling, aren't you going to introduce me?" she asked, her voice carrying a slight southern accent that explained absolutely nothing about why my boyfriend found her irresistible. "This is Emery," Sterling said reluctantly. "My girlfriend." The word girlfriend hung in the air like a challenge. Tegan's smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered, extending a perfectly manicured hand. "How lovely to meet you. Sterling has mentioned you, of course." Liar, I thought, but shook her hand anyway. "And you must be the famous dance partner. Sterling talks about you constantly." Another lie, but this one made Sterling shift uncomfortably, and Tegan's eyes narrow almost imperceptibly. "Excellent." The instructor saved us from further awkwardness by clapping his hands and calling for attention. Rafael Santos was Brazilian, tall and lean with the kind of natural rhythm that made every movement look effortless. He had dark hair, warm brown eyes, and the sort of accent that could make grocery lists sound romantic. "Welcome to Intermediate Latin Dance," he announced. "Tonight we focus on connection, trust, and passion. These dances tell stories. Stories of love, betrayal, desire, reconciliation. You must feel the music in your soul, not just your feet." Perfect. If I was going to destroy Sterling's secret romance through the medium of dance, I might as well have a poetic soundtrack. Raphael paired us off. Naturally, Sterling stayed with Tegan while Corbin and I found our own space near the mirror. The first exercise was simple. Basic salsa steps, focusing on maintaining eye contact with your partner. Corbin picked up the rhythm immediately, his musical background giving him an unfair advantage over Sterling, who kept glancing at us instead of focusing on his own footwork. "He's watching us," Corbin murmured, spinning me smoothly. "Good. Let him watch." We moved through the basic steps, then progressed to turns and dips. Corbin was a natural, confident, smooth, with just enough showmanship to make our movements look more advanced than they actually were. By contrast, Sterling kept stumbling slightly, clearly distracted by our presence. Tegan, however, was genuinely good. She moved with fluid grace, anticipating Sterling's leads and covering for his mistakes seamlessly. Watching them together, I understood why Sterling had been drawn to these lessons. Dancing with her probably made him feel sophisticated, passionate, like the leading man in some romantic movie instead of an insurance adjuster from Phoenix. The revelation stung more than I'd expected. "Break time," Raphael announced after 45 minutes of increasingly complex routines. "Partners, take 5 minutes to practice what we've learned." Sterling made a beeline for me while Tegan headed to the water fountain, her skirt swishing with each step. "Emery, what the hell is going on?" he whispered urgently. "Why are you here with him?" "Learning to dance," I repeated innocently. "Just like you've been doing for 3 months. Funny how you never thought to invite me." "That's different. Tegan and I are dance partners. We've been working toward the showcase together. And now Corbin and I are working toward the showcase too. Problem?" Sterling's eyes darted toward Corbin, who was stretching near the mirror, his shirt pulling slightly across his shoulders in a way that reminded me of exactly why I'd found him so hard to resist 3 years ago. "This isn't like you, Emery. You don't do things like this. Maybe you don't know me as well as you think you do." Before he could respond, Raphael called everyone back to position. The second half of class focused on partner chemistry, the subtle communication between dancers that makes the difference between mechanical movement and true artistry. Raphael demonstrated with different students, showing how trust and connection translate into fluid motion. When he danced with me for the demonstration, I felt Sterling's eyes burning into us from across the room. Raphael's lead was confident, guiding me through steps I'd never attempted, making me look graceful and experienced. For 3 minutes, I forgot about revenge and betrayal, and just enjoyed the pure joy of moving to music with someone who knew exactly what he was doing. "Beautiful," Raphael said as the song ended. "You have natural instinct for this." I glanced at Sterling, who looked like he'd swallowed something unpleasant. Tegan was whispering something in his ear, her expression troubled. Class ended at 9 sharp. As we gathered our things, Tegan approached me while Sterling was in the bathroom. Emery, can I speak with you privately? This should be interesting, I thought, but nodded. I want you to know, she said quietly. Sterling talks about you all the time. He loves you very much. The sincerity in her voice caught me off guard. Then why are you texting him about feeling alive when you moved together? Her face went white. How did you… She stopped, understanding dawning in her eyes. You know. I know enough. She looked around nervously, then stepped closer. It's not what you think. It's complicated. I'm sure it is. Sterling emerged from the bathroom, saw us talking, and practically sprinted over. Ready to go? He asked me, his voice strained. Absolutely, I said, linking my arm through Corbin's. Same time next week? Wouldn't miss it, Corbin replied, loud enough for everyone to hear. As we walked to the parking lot, I could feel Sterling and Tegan watching us leave. Round 1 was complete, but I had a feeling the real revelations were just beginning. Thursday morning brought the kind of revelation that makes you question everything you thought you knew about human nature. I was drinking coffee and pretending to work on a brochure for yet another dental office when my phone buzzed with a Facebook notification. Someone named Marcus Chen had tagged Tegan Williams Chen in a post about their 3rd wedding anniversary. Wait, Williams Chen? I nearly choked on my coffee. Tegan wasn't just Sterling's ex-girlfriend and current dance partner, she was someone's wife. A wife who was spending Wednesday evenings getting cozy with my boyfriend while her husband posted romantic anniversary messages about 3 amazing years with my beautiful wife. The rabbit hole got deeper from there. Marcus Chen worked as a software engineer at Intel, owned a house in Chandler, and based on his social media posts, believed his wife spent Wednesday evenings at book club with her girlfriends from college. His most recent post was a photo of flowers he'd bought for Tegan, just because, captioned with enough heart emojis to stock a Valentine's Day store. This was so much worse than I'd imagined. I spent my lunch break conducting what I generously called research and what the FBI would probably classify as social media stalking. Tegan's Instagram painted the picture of a devoted wife, anniversary dinners, weekend getaways to Sedona, couples photos that screamed, perfect marriage. But her stories told a different tale. Wednesday evenings were mysteriously absent from her social media presence, almost like she was creating an alibi through strategic posting. Meanwhile, Sterling's behavior had become increasingly suspicious. He'd started showering immediately after coming home from dance class, had purchased new cologne without mentioning it, and kept his phone face down during dinner. A man who used to show me every funny meme he encountered. That afternoon, Corbin texted, "Lunch tomorrow? I have information you need to hear." We met at The Grind, a coffee shop in Old Town Scottsdale where the baristas knew Corbin by name, and his usual order included enough caffeine to power a small aircraft. He looked uncharacteristically serious when I arrived, which immediately put me on edge. "I asked around about Tegan," he said without preamble. "Called in some favors with people who know people in the Phoenix dance scene. And? She's been taking classes at Desert Rhythm for 8 months. Not 3. Started in January with a different partner, some guy named Jake who moved to California in May. Sterling isn't her first replacement partner. The implications hit me like a Phoenix summer heat wave. She's done this before. Gets better. Jake's girlfriend at the time was a woman named Crystal Rodriguez. Crystal caught them together after their showcase performance in April, caused a scene that apparently became legendary in local dance circles. Jake moved to Los Angeles 2 weeks later, claiming he needed a fresh start. I stared at my iced latte, watching the condensation drip onto the wooden table. So Sterling isn't special. He's just the latest in a pattern. There's more. Corbin leaned forward, his expression grim. According to my sources, Tegan specifically targets men in committed relationships. Something about the challenge making the connection more intense. She's a professional homewrecker, with a husband who has no idea what she's doing. We sat in silence for a moment, processing the full scope of the situation. Sterling wasn't just cheating. He was being systematically manipulated by someone who'd turned affair having into an art form. It would have been almost pitiable if I wasn't so furious. "There's something else," Corbin said quietly. "Something I need to tell you." The tone shift made my stomach clench. "What? The reason I agreed to help you with this whole revenge dance thing? It wasn't just to mess with Sterling. He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I remembered from every difficult conversation we'd ever had. Emery, I never got over you. When you called asking for help, I thought maybe this was my chance to show you that I've changed, that I could be the stable guy you needed. Corbin, I know the timing is terrible. I know you're dealing with Sterling's betrayal and planning your dramatic revenge, but I couldn't keep pretending this was just about dance lessons and payback. I studied his face, seeing the vulnerability he usually hid behind confidence and charm. 3 years ago, I'd walked away from this man because I wanted security over passion, predictability over excitement. Now I was discovering that security was an illusion, and predictability was just another word for being taken for granted. We'll deal with that later, I said finally. Right now, we have a showcase to prepare for. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of dance lessons, escalating tension, and strategic intelligence gathering. Sterling's behavior became increasingly erratic. He'd gone from whistling salsa tunes to snapping at me over minor things like leaving dishes in the sink or forgetting to record his favorite TV show. The guilt was eating at him, which gave me a perverse sense of satisfaction. During our Wednesday classes, I watched Tegan work her magic on Sterling with professional admiration for her technique. She was good, really good. The way she made him feel like the most important person in the room, how she laughed at his awkward jokes, the way she touched his arm just a beat longer than necessary during partner adjustments. If I didn't hate her, I might have been impressed. But I was learning too. Raphael had taken special interest in helping Corbin and me prepare for the showcase, staying after class to work on our routine. There was something about dancing with someone who actually knew what they were doing that was addictive. The way Raphael could guide me through complex steps without making me feel clumsy. How he made every movement look effortless and elegant. "You're a natural," he said during one of our extra practice sessions. "Have you considered taking this more seriously?" "What do you mean?" "I mean teaching. I could use an assistant instructor, someone with instinct and stage presence." The offer caught me completely off guard. Me? Teaching dance? 3 weeks ago, I couldn't tell a cha-cha from a salsa. "Think about it," Raphael said, his accent making even casual suggestions sound romantic. "After the showcase, perhaps we discuss over dinner." Corbin, who'd been practicing his own moves across the studio, shot Raphael a look that could have melted steel. Apparently, I now had 2 men competing for my attention while my boyfriend was off pursuing someone else's wife. The irony wasn't lost on me. The Thursday before the showcase, I implemented the final phase of my plan. I'd been thinking about Marcus Chen, Tegan's unsuspecting husband, and realized he deserved to know what his wife was really doing during those Wednesday evening book clubs. I created a fake social media account, Phoenix Dance Enthusiast, and sent him a simple message. "Hi, I'm part of the local dance community and thought you might want to know that your wife Tegan is absolutely amazing at Latin dance. You should surprise her at the Desert Rhythm Studio showcase this Saturday night at 7 p.m. She's been working so hard with her partner Sterling, and I know she'd love to see you there supporting her." Marcus responded within an hour. "Thank you for letting me know. I had no idea Tegan was taking dance lessons. What a wonderful surprise this will be." Perfect. The trap was set. Saturday night was going to be unforgettable, for everyone involved. Saturday evening arrived with the kind of dramatic flair that Hollywood screenwriters dream about. Desert Rhythm Studio had been transformed for the showcase. Professional lighting, a packed audience of families and friends, and enough nervous energy to power downtown Phoenix. I arrived at 6:30 wearing a black dress that made me look like trouble and feel like victory. My hair swept up to show off the earrings Corbin had surprised me with that afternoon. "For luck," he'd said, though we both knew I'd already won this war. Sterling was warming up with Tegan near the mirrors, both of them in matching black outfits that screamed, "We take ourselves very seriously." She looked stunning, as always, her blonde hair in perfect waves and her smile radiant as she laughed at something Sterling whispered in her ear. They had no idea their entire world was about to implode in spectacular fashion. I spotted Marcus Chen immediately. He was impossible to miss, standing near the entrance with a bouquet of roses and the eager expression of a man about to surprise his beloved wife. He kept checking his phone and scanning the room, clearly looking for Tegan. My heart almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Target acquired, Corbin murmured, nodding toward Marcus. Phase 1 complete, I replied. Now we wait for the fireworks. Raphael appeared beside us, devastatingly handsome in a black shirt and pants that fit him like they'd been custom tailored by someone who understood exactly how fabric should move with the human body. Are you ready for tonight? He asked, his accent wrapping around the words like silk. More than ready, I said, and meant it. The showcase began with the beginner classes, sweet couples stumbling through basic steps while their families cheered from the sidelines. The intermediate class would perform fourth, giving me plenty of time to watch the drama unfold. It started during the third performance. I saw Marcus finally spot Tegan across the room, his face lighting up with surprise and delight. He began making his way through the crowd, roses in hand, completely unaware that he was about to destroy multiple lives in the process. Tegan saw him first. The color drained from her face so quickly I thought she might faint. She grabbed Sterling's arm, whispering frantically in his ear while gesturing toward Marcus, who was still approaching with that innocent, loving smile. Sterling's reaction was everything I'd hoped for, and more. His face went through the same progression of expressions I'd witnessed 3 weeks earlier: confusion, recognition, and pure panic, but amplified by the sudden understanding that he wasn't just a cheating boyfriend, but an unwitting accomplice in someone else's marriage destruction. "Tegan!" Marcus called out, raising the roses above his head. "Surprise!" The entire studio seemed to pause. Conversations stopped, heads turned, and I watched my boyfriend realize that his secret romance had just become very, very public. Tegan's recovery was impressive, I'll give her credit for that. She plastered on a smile and rushed toward Marcus, accepting his hug and flowers while shooting desperate looks back at Sterling, who stood frozen near the mirrors like a deer caught in headlights. "Marcus, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice pitched higher than usual. "A friend from the dance community told me about your performance tonight," he said, beaming with pride. "I had no idea you were taking lessons. This is amazing, honey. Where's your dance partner? I want to meet him." Sterling made a sound that might have been a whimper. "Oh, he's around somewhere," Tegan said weakly. "But Marcus, you really shouldn't be here. It's just a silly little showcase." "Are you kidding? My wife, the secret dancer? I wouldn't miss this for the world." Raphael took the microphone to announce the intermediate class performances. "Our next group has been working very hard on their routines. Please welcome our intermediate Latin dancers." This was it. Showtime. Sterling and Tegan were scheduled to perform third in the intermediate group. As the first couple began their routine, I watched Tegan desperately trying to convince Marcus to leave while Sterling stood nearby looking like he might vomit. The cognitive dissonance of trying to perform a romantic dance with your married affair partner, while her husband watched from the audience, was apparently more than Sterling's insurance-adjusting brain could handle. The second couple finished their routine to enthusiastic applause. Raphael called Sterling and Tegan to the floor. "This is Sterling Morrison and Tegan Williams-Chen, performing a passionate salsa routine they've been perfecting for months." The way Raphael emphasized months made me suspect he'd figured out more about this situation than he'd let on. Marcus cheered from the sidelines, completely oblivious to the irony of his wife's married name being announced, while she prepared to dance romantically with another man. Their performance was a disaster. Sterling kept missing his cues, Tegan was stiff and distracted, and the chemistry that had probably made them feel like stars in class was nowhere to be found under the pressure of public scrutiny and Marcus's enthusiastic applause. They managed to get through their routine without falling, but barely. "Wasn't she amazing?" Marcus asked anyone who would listen as they left the floor. "My talented wife." Next up, Corbin and me. We'd choreographed our routine carefully, a bachata that started slow and intimate, building to explosive spins and dips that would showcase both our technical skill and our undeniable chemistry. Raphael had helped us perfect every movement, and 3 weeks of practice had made us genuinely formidable partners. The music began, and I felt that familiar rush of confidence that came from knowing exactly what I was doing. Corbin's lead was perfect, strong, confident, guiding me through steps that made me look like I'd been dancing for years. We moved together like we'd never been apart, like those 3 years of separation had just been an intermission in a longer story. The audience disappeared. Sterling's shocked face, Tegan's panic, Marcus's confusion, none of it mattered. For 3.5 minutes, there was only the music, the movement, and the pure joy of dancing with someone who made me feel graceful and powerful and absolutely unstoppable. We finished with a dramatic dip that brought the house down. The applause was thunderous. Genuine appreciation for what everyone could see had been the performance of the night. "Beautiful," Raphael announced. "Absolutely beautiful." As we caught our breath, I saw Sterling staring at us with an expression I couldn't quite read. Hurt, maybe, or recognition of what he'd lost. Tegan was still trapped in conversation with Marcus, who was asking increasingly specific questions about her dance classes and how long she'd been taking them. "Where did you say you met your dance partner?" I heard him ask. "At the studio," Tegan replied weakly. "But how did you know to sign up together?" The lies were unraveling faster than a cheap sweater, and there was nowhere for either of them to hide. Raphael appeared at my side as the final couples performed. "Dinner tomorrow?" he asked quietly. "I think we have much to discuss." Before I could answer, Sterling appeared, looking desperate and slightly green around the edges. "Emery, we need to talk. Now." "Actually," I said, loud enough for Tegan and Marcus to hear, "I think everyone needs to talk. Don't you, Tegan?" The look she shot me could have killed houseplants. Marcus was walking over, still clutching his roses, still smiling that trusting smile that was about to be shattered into a million pieces. "Tegan, honey, introduce me to your dance partner. I'd love to thank him for helping you discover this wonderful new passion." Sterling looked like he wanted to disappear through the floor. Tegan looked like she was calculating the distance to the exit. And Marcus looked like a man who was about to learn that sometimes the people we trust most are the ones capable of hurting us deepest. The showcase was officially over, but the real performance was just beginning. 3 months later, I'm sitting in my new apartment in Old Town Scottsdale, sipping coffee and watching the sunrise paint the desert mountains in shades of pink and gold. It's amazing how much your perspective changes when you stop settling for being someone's backup plan and start writing your own story. The fallout from showcase night was more spectacular than I could have imagined. Marcus, bless his engineering heart, demanded a full explanation right there in the studio parking lot. Watching Tegan try to explain why her book club involved romantic dancing with married men was like watching someone attempt brain surgery with a butter knife. Technically possible, but destined for disaster. Sterling's contribution to the conversation was even more pathetic. He kept stammering about emotional connections and finding himself through dance, which only made Marcus ask the very logical question, "So you found yourself by helping my wife lie to me for 8 months?" The answer, of course, was yes, but Sterling wasn't brave enough to say it out loud. Tegan and Marcus are divorced now. According to Phoenix dance scene gossip, and yes, that's apparently a thing, the settlement wasn't kind to her. Turns out Marcus had been documenting their finances very carefully, and Tegan's secret dance lessons, new wardrobe, and mysterious Wednesday evening expenses painted a clear picture for the divorce attorney. She moved back to Texas to live with her sister, presumably to find a fresh pool of unsuspecting dance partners. Marcus, meanwhile, has taken up salsa dancing. He's actually quite good at it, and from what I hear, he's dating a lovely woman named Carmen, who teaches beginners classes and believes in radical concepts like honesty and fidelity. Good for him. Sterling tried to salvage our relationship with the desperation of a man suddenly realizing he'd traded a Mercedes for a rental car that got repossessed. The conversations were painful, lots of crying, promises to change, and explanations about how dancing with Tegan had made him feel alive in ways our relationship apparently hadn't. "But I chose you," he kept saying, as if choosing me after months of lying and emotional cheating was some kind of romantic gesture. "You chose me," I finally told him. "The same way someone chooses a sensible sedan after crashing their sports car. Congratulations on your excellent judgment." He moved out 2 weeks after the showcase. Last I heard, he was dating someone from his office, a woman named Jennifer, who probably thinks his dance moves are impressive and hasn't yet learned that emotional availability isn't one of his strong suits. She'll figure it out eventually. As for Corbin and me, well, that's complicated in the best possible way. We're taking things slow, which is hilarious considering we spent 3 weeks engaged in elaborate revenge choreography. But we're both older now, hopefully wiser, and definitely more honest about what we want from each other. I'm not the same guy who was too scared to commit 3 years ago, he told me over dinner last week. And I'm not the same woman who thought safety was more important than passion, I replied. We're figuring it out as we go, which turns out to be much more interesting than having everything planned out in advance. The biggest surprise, though, has been Raphael's job offer. Teaching dance was never on my life plan. But then again, neither was discovering my boyfriend's secret romance through strategic social media stalking. Sometimes the best opportunities come disguised as complete disasters. I started as his assistant instructor 6 weeks ago, and I love it more than I ever loved writing marketing copy for dental offices. There's something magical about helping people discover they can move in ways they never thought possible, about watching couples find their rhythm together, about being part of the moment when someone realizes they're capable of grace and elegance and joy. Raphael and I have been spending a lot of time together, probably more time than strictly necessary for professional development. He's patient, funny, and has never once lied to me about secret dance partners or mysterious text messages. Also, the man can cook, which after years of Sterling's culinary repertoire, cereal, sandwiches, and takeout, feels like a minor miracle. You know, Raphael said yesterday as we practiced a new routine, I think this was always meant to happen. What, the dance classes? No, he said, spinning me into a perfect dip. You finding out who you really are? He might have a point. The woman who discovered Sterling's betrayal through Facebook messages was reactive, insecure, willing to accept scraps of attention from someone who took her for granted. The woman teaching salsa to nervous beginners on Thursday nights is confident, direct, and absolutely unwilling to settle for anything less than she deserves. It's funny how revenge can turn into self-discovery, how humiliation can become empowerment, how the worst thing that happens to you can actually be the best thing that happens to you, if you're brave enough to see it that way. I still live in Phoenix, but now it's by choice rather than inertia. I still drink coffee every morning, but now it's while planning dance routines instead of dreading another day of writing about root canals. I still believe in love, but now I know the difference between loving someone and accepting whatever scraps of affection they're willing to offer. The best revenge, it turns out, isn't destroying your ex's relationship with his married dance partner. The best revenge is building a life so amazing that you forget why you wanted revenge in the first place. Though I have to admit, watching everything implode in that studio parking lot was pretty satisfying too. Some stories end with, and they lived happily ever after. This one ends with, and she learned to live happily, period. Which, when you think about it, is much better.